Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am joined this week by Don Pizzette. Don, how you doing?
I am doing swell. It's the holiday season, so I'm having a hard time keeping the working mindset right now. I just want to be on vacation.
Well, next week you get not a vacation, but you get a fun trip.
Yeah, I'll be over at the UK office, so I get to see our friends over the seas.
Yeah, and they have the fun Christmas markets and all those things.
You know, I have a secret Santa over there I have to buy a gift for. I have no idea what to get them, so I wanted to get something like super American cheesy.
Fruitcake.
I was thinking like a Donald Trump bobblehead. But
MAGA hats for everyone.
I don't know if I can get a fruitcake through customs.
I think that's like
A weapon of mass
considered
destruction.
like, like geology. A rock. I don't know if you can get a Donald Trump bobblehead through customs either. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works after Brexit.
I have to think of some kind of decidedly American gift to get.
Yeah.
A Bass Pro Shop gift card.
Yeah.
They can't use.
They can't use. Yeah.
That's not there.
There you go.
They told me I can't spend more than 10 pounds. I said, joke's on them. I'm not going to spend any pounds. We use $bucks.
And
That's right.
And Daniel, how was your weekend?
It was good. I spent it soft modding my Wii and worked very well.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure your wife's happy about that.
Dole approves.
Bob There's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Well, Bob Dole.
Show's already off the rails.
Pineapple is amazing.
All right. Let's go ahead and look at some news this week. A lot happened. We've got some new product announcements, a little bit of security news, some geopolitical fun, all kinds of things. This first article actually infuriates me a little bit. So let's get into that from tomshardware.com. Intel officially introduces pay-as-you-go chip licensing. Intel's Xeon Sapphire Rapid CPUs to activate additional features on demand. And when I first read this, I thought this meant you were like renting a chip in the cloud, so you're paying as you use it somehow.
It's a
And I was like,
cloud
what is
chip.
it? How is, are you using some remote hardware? And then I realized you're actually getting the chip and just not getting all of its features unless you're paying for it. Is that right?
Right. So Intel, they've actually been talking about this for a year, and so they're just now rolling it out. There's two different billing models here. So right now, if you go and buy an Intel processor, you get 100% of that processor, and you can use it 100% of the time. It's yours. You can use it forever. You bought it, unless you get it repossessed or something. Otherwise, it's yours. You use it and you go crazy. Well, they're introducing two new billing models. One is a consumption model where you're billed based on metered usage. So if you use 80% of the CPU that day, you get billed a certain value. And if you use 100% of the CPU that day, you get billed a different value. So you're actually billed as you use the processor. Now, for most people, like if you own a laptop or a desktop, that sounds like a really, really stupid deal, and you'd be absolutely right. This is really targeted to data centers, right? So high-end servers, enterprise data centers, where a usage model like this actually makes a lot more sense. They can save a bunch of money in some cases.
I thought you were going to get way more specific. This is billed to only people named Joe who live in Paraguay.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
It's just a weird function, but they decided to go that way. What can I do?
Well, this reminds me of like those BMWs recently where they had an issue where to activate the heated seats, you had to pay a monthly
We were talking
All
about
right.
this kind of thing.
So now that is closer to what their second business model is, which is the activation model. And the activation model, that's almost more like an in-app purchase in an app on your phone,
It's like
right?
an upgrade.
Yeah, you got your Angry Birds, but if you want the golden bird or the one that looks like Obi-Wan Kenobi or
Shut up
something,
and take my money.
you got to pay an extra $1, right?
Yeah.
So they have introduced in-app purchases to your CPU if you want to add some advanced functionality. And so far, they're gating a handful of features that are really focused on people that are running large-scale databases or machine learning workloads, things of that nature. So their dynamic load balancer, their software guard extensions, the Intel Data Streaming Accelerator, the in-memory analytics accelerator. Each of these little features are ones that most people don't need. And if people do need them, they usually only need like one of them. I don't think there is a use case where somebody would need all of the features. And so what you can do is you can buy the CPU without those features on day one. And then when you need them, you can pay extra to unlock those extra features. And now you've got them. They haven't come out with all the details on it yet, but it sounds like once you unlock it, you do have that feature forever. So at least it's not monthly billing like the consumption model, but it is a brave new world for CPUs. You don't own what you buy.
What do you think? You think this is going to fly, or you think there's like a niche market that they'll make some money?
You think we have a choice?
Or
Well, so they're not the first to do this. Like the IBM mainframe model, if you ever worked on
guess
any
that's
Z
true.
series
Yeah.
mainframe, that's how they build for decades.
It's expensive.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah. I mean, well, you would.
I
You-
would
yeah.
believe it. Yes.
But this is more hitting consumers, where that was more of kind of a B2B thing. So, I think the general public was not used to that kind of billing method for this type
Yeah.
of
Right.
device.
And I don't think the general public ever will be. Like if Intel tried to roll this out on consumer laptops right now, people would start buying ARM processors more and just say, well, Intel can stuff it, and there's not a whole lot of
doing
loyalty
that anyway.
there.
Aren't
Yeah.
they?
Does this add to e-waste, because there's components that are built into every chip that aren't used, or not really, because
so
we're talking about such.
It really depends on volume, because in a way they're actually saving money, because this might have been five
Okay.
different CPUs before, and now it's just one CPU.
And in 5 different production lines to make
Right.
5 different chips, and now
Right.
they're able to just.
Now, I'm sure there's some tipping point
Sure.
where the amount of processors they make offsets the equipment they have, or whatever. And I don't know what that is, but I would assume that this is more efficient.
Well, it still pisses me off.
But you know what happens when you assume.
Yeah, you are right every time.
Well, they wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't profitable or efficient.
Well-
but we don't know that it's profitable.
If there's one thing we know about Intel, it's that they make great decisions all the time. That's your Itanium processor.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, do they-
that sits on the shelf.
Do they have Microsoft help them name these?
Then it would be the Itanium Pentium Series 7 series.
God,
Yeah,
seriously.
Duo Core.
Duo.
Duo Core 6.
It was getting out of hand for a little while, right? The Intel Core 2 Duo.
Yeah.
uh,
Right? It was
yeah.
nuts.
Yeah,
It's
that
the
was a
serious
real-
stuff
Yeah.
that is annoying.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's shift gears before
No.
we get too angry on this one. Over to abcnews.go.com. They're still using that Go. U.S. FCC bans sales and import of Chinese tech from Huawei and ZTE. And I know we've talked about in the past that this was something that the federal government couldn't use, but this is now saying that you're not going to import it for anyone in the U.S.,
That is
right?
correct. Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people who looked at this and said, "Oh, the government's being paranoid, and oh, the Chinese government's not spying on us, and even if they are spying on us, the Huawei equipment is so cheap that I
don't
might
really
wanna
care."
do it."
I'm okay to give up certain civil liberties
Yeah,
for a free
Hey,
Android device.
it's almost like a subsidized piece of equipment at that point.
Yeah.
And it's a trade-off. You do it with Facebook every day, right? If you use
I don't.
Facebook, yeah.
Well, it's not just Huawei and ZTE as well, though. There's also several camera manufacturers that are involved, which I was shocked that Foscam was not one of them.
Foscam was.
Maybe they're just too small. But
Hikvision was on the list,
Yeah.
which
Hikvision.
so,
It's from built in like Tennessee.
it's out
Have you heard-
Virginia. Yeah,
have you
Justin
heard of
used to use
Hikvision
them.
before?
I have not.
Okay, so I've actually not just heard of, but seen and used Hikvision cameras over the years, because they're low cost cameras. They're used in a lot of security systems, but it is a dumb name, especially if you're from the
Yeah.
American South,
Yeah.
not South America, but
Not South America.
a
I'm
Hick
sure
is
they
an
have
entirely
Hicks, too.
different.
Every
thing.
country
Yeah.
has Hicks. They just call them different things.
That's true. So, yeah, it is a number of different companies. Now, the reason it's important, the reason I wanted to bring it up on the podcast today is, in the past, you could ignore what the U.S. government was doing if you wanted to. A lot of people do.
You mean my standard operating procedure?
Yeah, as long as you don't ignore taxes, right? That didn't work out for Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, no.
But you can ignore most of what the American government does. But in this case, they are blocking the import. So they're not able to import Huawei and ZTE equipment. With Hikvision, they have to certify that the equipment will not be used in the surveillance system, which Hikvision is not going to do. So
Put straw hats on everybody, little corncob pipes.
So here's the challenge. Like, let's say you're an IT director, and last year you went ahead and said, screw it, we're going Huawei. Go ahead and bring in all that equipment, and you did it. Well, now you won't be able to get replacements. If something gets damaged and you try and do like a warranty repair, not going to happen.
Well,
Customs
I mean,
won't clear it.
Huawei stuff is so good. Hey, you don't have to worry about that then. Huh?
Yeah, usually the cheapest equipment is the most
It's
durable. I
amazing.
think that's how that works.
So they're
right?
going to be taking cocaine out of the trucks and
Correct
in
me if
Mexico
I'm
and
wrong,
putting Huawei devices in to get them across the border
Right.
now.
And correct me if I'm wrong. They just stole all those components from Cisco anyway, right? You just slap some Cisco replacement parts and you're good to rock.
You know, intellectual property theft is a big part of our modern industry.
That's how we get things done. That's how we get things done.
So yeah, this is a challenge. If you did make the decision to go ahead and use Huawei or ZTE equipment or whatever, you really do need to come up with a plan to replace it at this point, because you won't be able to get replacement parts for that in the near future.
All right, so here's a question I have, because you'd say, oh, well, then we'll just get our devices that are made in, well, never mind, they're all made in China. But the difference with someone like, let's say, an Apple device, it's made in China, but it's not a Chinese company that manufactures it, okay, it's a Chinese company that manufactures it, but it's an American company. So
what you're
it's
trying to
different.
say is, if it's made in China, that's not okay unless it's also designed in California.
Yeah, it has to be designed in
And-
Cupertino. Right?
Yeah.
So honestly, Apple gets a pass on this because
They're Apple.
yes,
not?
yeah, they really are. Apple does so many things that are just on the edge of being illegal, right? Like, there's a rule that the FCC has a rule that if you have a radio in your device, you have to have that FCC stamp on your device,
That's
right?
correct.
And you have to say what country it was made. It has to say made in blah, 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 right? But if you take an iPhone and look at it, you won't see that. It is there, printed in like dark gray ink on a gray spot on
On the
phone.
backside of
No way.
Yeah, no, they literally do that.
Nice.
And that's why when you get an Apple box and it's a white box with light gray writing on there, they don't want you to see the writing. They want you to
Yeah.
see the Apple logo. And so, yeah, it's designed in California. Well,
That's nice.
that's not what the rule says. The rule says you have to say where it was made. It was made in China, and it was made by Foxconn 9
Which
times
is
out of
having
10.
their own troubles right now.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The zero COVID stuff in the factories. I'm guessing we're going to see some supply chain issues with new phones.
As far as I can figure, the reason that Apple gets a pass on this one is that at least the software is developed and controlled here within the United States.
Yeah.
So even if malicious third-party components were added to the hardware, they would turn it up in theory,
Hmm.
in their
In theory,
software.
yeah.
In theory.
Like, have you ever heard the story about the bottom of like Converse Chuck Taylors, how they're kind of fuzzy when you first get them? You ever notice that? The
Yes.
sole?
No.
I knew that, yeah.
They're I'm paraphrasing a long story into a short story, but the tariffs on importing shoes versus importing slippers are very different. So they're able to classify them as slippers
Really?
with the bottom to save tons of money.
Obviously.
And so that's like sounds like
Wow.
what Apple's doing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
sure, we'll put that stamp on there
They
in the
game
same
system,
color.
right?
as
That's the whole
background.
idea.
Yeah.
Everybody's out there gaming it.
Don's
trying to
fact
just
checking
make
me
that
right now.
money.
Well, I'm just
Don's
curious.
fact check.
I just want to see the fuzzy sole.
The
Oh,
Well, it's just
Peter's wrong
it's just something you can just kind of
again.com.
feel. Yeah. Oh boy, YouTube was quick to correct us on Mongolia last week. Remember how we were like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, Mongolia, that's not a country," and then we're like,
That's
"Oh
it.
crap, that's a
No,
country."
I said it was country.
yeah, and it used to
You didn't
be.
correct me.
No, some of us were corrected. I want to see what I was told by this one gentleman.
Oh, and just for the record,
Yeah.
I've so far found at least one article corroborating your story. So
Good to know.
it does appear to be true. But I'm just trying to find a picture that shows.
You can't
It's on
really see it.
zeitgeist.org
Oh,
or
it's-
whatever, right?
It's just like you kind of feel. You're like, that's almost like a little,
Yeah.
and it wears off like
Immediately.
within a couple days of wearing the shoes outside, which is where it gets interesting because you're like, now did my shoe become a sneaker
Yeah.
overnight? All right, this guy says Mongolia is a country. In the past, China was a part of Mongolia, not the other way around, because I said that
Right.
backwards.
Because the Mongolians
Yeah,
invaded China, right? Yeah. Is
and
that
then
the old Genghis Khan thing?
sure, yeah, Mongolia,
Right.
Was this?
According to that episode of South Park, yes, that is what happened. Do you remember? With
Yes, I do.
the City Walk.
You know, I for whatever reason, I just stopped watching South Park probably in like 2007 or 8.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of it that I've missed, but that was not one of
that
them.
was a good one. And apparently, we also said that all Russians were bad. But he pointed out that they are not all bad people, but living inside Russia, they pay taxes for the war machine. Therefore, they're all guilty, just like the Germans were in World War II. So hot take
A hot
there
take.
from
Yeah.
that person.
And
but
I thought I said that not all Russians were bad.
it could be, but
All right. Well,
I edited out the not part when I posted that. Just trying to get you in trouble there. So yeah, if you were thinking about pulling the trigger on that new Huawei bulk order for the office,
get some Chuck Taylors instead.
get some Chuck Taylors. They'll hide the Huawei's in there.
Right. You slide the Huawei chips.
No, they're like these aren't phones; these are slippers. We put a soft bottom on them.
No. That's
Next year, we'll be like, you ever notice how Huawei switches are kind of fuzzy on the bottom?
Yeah. They sell them as slippers.
All right. Another slightly confusing story coming your way from Yahoo, Yahoo's UK news. Epson phases out laser printers over sustainability concerns because the price of those lasers and the impact on the environment. But I did read this one because I was really curious. I'm like, what is the difference? But it sounded to me like two things. Number one, the heat and things that those printers put off, and then all the things you have to replace. Like in an inkjet, you just replace the little ink cartridge. I've never worked with a laser jet at home.
I just
but
thought
it's a
when
lot
it ran
more,
out of
right?
ink, you just replace the printer.
I think that's what you're supposed to do.
So
Yeah.
mechanically, inkjet printers are a lot more simple than laser printers.
Okay.
Laser printers are complex devices, but also monetarily, I think companies like Epson make a lot more money off of ink refills than they do off of toner cartridges. But there's a few reasons why laser jets are better and a few reasons why laser jets are worse. And Epson has just decided that the tipping point has finally been reached where it doesn't make sense for them to sell laser printers anymore. And, I just had to buy a new printer at home maybe a month ago, not very long ago. And I did buy an Epson inkjet, thankfully not a laser jet.
Well, they still said they would support the ones out there with
so
the
you'd be okay.
consumables, they said.
I wanted to get a laser, but I was surprised to see how expensive they were. Like, they're $400 or $500 for a decent one, and they go up from there. I figured, hey, that technology's been around for 20, 25 years now. It should be less expensive, but the price is still up there. And what drives up the cost on them is with a laser printer. First off, there's the toner, right? So the toner has resin that it uses, a little black powder that it throws onto a page that you melt on there. That resin is actually toxic.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't sniff it.
Yeah.
Daniel tried. That doesn't work.
That
That did
delicious
not
resin.
work out.
He's still not right.
Yeah. What?
Seeing demons.
Oh, man, they're all over me.
The bugs, they're crawling under my skin.
Anyway,
And yeah. So
printer demons.
so there's the
There is such
toner,
a thing
right?
as
Toxic.
a printer demon, which is funny.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. We'll get a T-shirt made for that. But the other thing is you have to melt the resin to the paper. So there's a corona wire, like an actual heating element, a drum that has to be magnetized or charged. Not magnetized, right? Yeah. So you get positive and negative charges and all this mess. And it's just a complex device. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong. It's not energy efficient like the power draw. If you ever buy a laser printer, it'll always have in the manual, do not plug into a power strip, plug directly into the wall. And it's because they're worried about how many amps it draws when it heats up that wire. So, there's a lot to it versus an inkjet that just is like an air stream that's
Yeah, it's just like
spewing ink.
spitting out ink.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a jet of ink. And so I understand how that works. I understand how, dot matrix works. Is a laser printer just kind of the same as a dot matrix where it's the laser is just kind of pushing the toner against the paper? Or how does it actually print?
So the laser doesn't actually hit the paper. The laser draws the image on the drum. So
Okay.
the laser is what's changing it. I think it's from a positive to a negative charge.
Yeah.
And then the negative charge, when the drum rolls over the toner jumps up and sticks wherever there's a
it's
negative
positive
charge.
charge.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
And then as the paper comes across, the corona wire is what's setting up
The heating
positive
element,
charge on
yeah.
that. And the toner jumps from the drum to the paper.
Okay.
And then it goes through a heating element that has a name I can't remember.
All right. So if this is truly about sustainability and not, hey, we weren't making profit here or anything like that, why don't we repurpose all these old laser jets as heating elements? I mean, the cost of heating right now in the UK, for example, very, very high. Can we just print things and somehow ship that heat into people's homes?
We could All right, how about this? We take the heating elements from the printers and use those to heat homes, and then we could take the lasers out and strap them onto sharks' foreheads.
Yes.
And
freaking lasers.
yeah,
On their freaking forehead.
Yeah, it's hard to get.
It is.
it
Yes.
really is.
What
To
did
train
you
'em.
get at first? Tuna?
I mean, the
or something?
training alone on those sharks.
I remember because that was the thing. He's like, all I'm asking for is sharks with lasers.
You gotta
Add
hire
something else.
You gotta hire Heinz Velvet.
Yeah, it's
Right?
a whole process. Yeah, but it says you got to replace the where did it go? The toner, the drum, the developer, and the fusers. So
The fuser, that's the heating
the
element.
part-
That's what I
okay.
couldn't remember earlier.
So there's a lot more parts and maintenance, which makes sense for why you really just see them in offices because they'll spit out paper a lot quicker. So you'll need those in office settings, but there's also a lot more.
Plus, they kill
Maintain.
about 400 people every year.
Is that right?
I don't know.
But you said it convincingly.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's good enough for today's news.
I'll take it.
Would IT people the world over be happy about this news because do they enjoy?
Printers
no
are
one
the
en-
bane of our experience.
Yeah, no one enjoys
It's-
dealing with,
Yeah.
with printers, but is this a lot easier now? Like, oh, thank God I don't have to do that thing where I get toner all over me.
You know, in a high volume environment, a toner cartridge will last a lot longer than an ink cartridge. So in most offices, you will have laser printers. And so, if you're an IT person out there, if you use Epson laser printers, then this is an issue. But if you use Canon or
like Smart
HP,
or whatever.
Yep. One of the other guys, then you're fine. But if Epson made the decision today, how long before some of the other vendors start looking at it and saying we need to move away from laser? Because there's only a handful of printing solutions out there, right? So there's inkjet and laserjet are the two most common. After that, there's the one that takes the weird wax cubes. Do you remember what that's called? Wes were
don't
here, he would
remember. Yeah,
know it
Wes
like
will
that.
Yeah, he loves that stuff.
And then there's like dye sublimation printers. There's a few other variants, but like lasers and ink, that's
big
the top
dogs.
two. Yep.
Wax cubes. I've stopped using inkjet. Or replacing just the
I
cartridges.
thought you were just gonna stop with. I've stopped using.
Yeah, finally. Yeah, I say that every holiday
time,
season.
yeah.
But I use my blood now because it's cheaper
Yeah.
and I can regenerate
Yes,
it.
indeed.
And yeah, it works just as fine. Best wax 3D print. No, that's a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Scented wax candles. Okay, that's just an.
Don's looking it up.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
I'm
They're
finding
fancy.
3D
Like if
printers.
you work in a professional print shop, or if
Yeah.
you go down to like FedEx Kinko's or whatever, they'll have one there where they're these hard colored cubes or
Something.
rectangle, not a rectangle. What's a 3-dimensional rectangle?
Three-dimensional rectangle.
no,
It's
no.
called-
Like a cube is a 3-dimensional
Cube's
square,
four
right?
sides. Yeah.
So
It's a parallelogram.
No.
there we go. So you take the rhomboid or whatever the hell it's called,
Rhombus?
the graboid, and you
The graboid. All of a sudden, we're sticking Trevor's. All right, Michael Gross.
and you drop it in
I
there.
feel like I was not properly briefed. He showed up with guts all over there. I'll tell you what, he is an
A
underrated
cuboid. It's
comedian.
called a cuboid.
That man is funny.
A rectangle is a two-dimensional
Cube,
figure.
Yeah. A cuboid is any.
A 3D rectangle
four-sided.
is a cuboid. Why did I know that? I've never heard. That's crazy.
It's not like something they teach you in school.
So today we learned Converse or slippers,
Yeah,
3D rectangles, cuboids.
nailed it.
What else we learned? Oh, how many people are killed by laser printers each year? Approximately.
Asterisks. Yeah,
Approximately.
asterisks.
No one knows for sure. Wow, that's fun. All right.
It's an ongoing study.
Speaking of ongoing studies, this one was super interesting to me. Are we done with the printers?
I think so. I can't find the answer.
If you
to
can
this
find that other
question.
one, yeah. Well, Wes.
Yeah, where are you at?
All right. This next article is from arstechnica.com. It says, thinking about taking your computer to the repair shop? Be very afraid. And what's interesting is with our audience, we're more, there's a better chance that we're talking to the computer repair person than the person that would take their computer in for repair. So shame on you for what you've been doing. But Don, you want to fill us in on what this study found?
All right. So I don't know how to pronounce this, but the University of Guelph?
Sure.
Uh,
Is that in Middle Earth?
Golf? Yeah, it seems like it. It's actually in Ontario,
Oh,
Canada, which is very close to Mordor.
Same.
It's like Dudley. It's from Dark Crystal.
So, you ever hear about the scientific studies they do over things that are just common sense or nobody
Yes.
cares about, like why
Yes.
monkeys like bananas or what the average number of fingers a human being has, and you're like, do we really need to
You're
do a study on that?
I feel like we've got that on lock.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a case of where they did a study on one of those things that I always just assumed people knew happened, which is if you take your computer in to get it repaired and you give the people doing the repair access to your computer, they are going to violate your privacy left and right with no qualms whatsoever,
This is
especially
the unwritten law, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. So that's why, like, if I send a laptop in for repair, the laptop's encrypted and I don't give them a password.
Yeah.
And, hey, if it's a software thing, you can just format the computer.
Yeah.
Right. And send it back to me. I'll restore my backup.
Yeah.
If I'm sending it to you, it's for hardware, not software.
Right.
I'll fix software on my own. So they did a study. They took a handful of laptops and went to 12 different commercial repair shops. They ran monitoring software on the laptops. They set up half of them to look like they were owned by a man and another half to look like they were owned by a woman. And then they sent them in for repair. And what they found was that in over 50% of the case, the people doing the repair on the laptop searched it for pictures and copied them off to personal data. They actually seeded them with some pictures, revealing pictures and things like that, which the repair people promptly accessed. And so they were really surprised that the number was so high, that the number was just over 50%.
I was surprised it was so low.
Yeah.
Well, I would think,
Not that I would do that.
and bear with my train of thought here, that you'd be more likely to search a man's computer because the woman might just have pictures of one woman. The man's
Herself.
computer might have pictures of many women.
All right.
That's true.
Didn't think of that logic, but I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense.
Oh.
Now,
We know how Peter thinks now.
One other scientific question. What did the woman look like who brought the computer?
So correct me if I'm wrong. They did say that, like, I think that they kind of portrayed the woman, some of the women as, or to some of the texts as that the woman was attractive.
Mhm.
Right? They kind
that
of like
would make
made them
sense.
try to think of them.
They walked in
Yeah.
and said, "So I use this laptop for my OnlyFans, and I can't seem to."
Dude, if you read the comment section on this,
Oh no!
Oh,
it
it
was
went off the wall.
amazing,
I
yes.
avoid comments.
So-
at all
Yeah.
costs.
So I do want to just make a blanket statement that this behavior is not okay,
No.
but it is something that happens that is somewhat well known in the industry and not something that they've taken action on. And just like here in the United States, the one that pops into mind is the Best Buy Geek Squad.
You're right.
Right. And there have been numerous times where people have gotten in trouble over that. But there's actually a bit of a conflict. So in the U.S., there is a rule that basically says if somebody's repairing your laptop and they come across illegal content, so usually it's child pornography,
Right.
that they are required by law to report it to the authorities. Well, the way that particular statute or whatever was written almost encourages the repair people to go through and search your laptop.
I was looking for that.
Yeah.
When they were passing the law, there were a number of people like the EFF and several organizations that were protesting against it, saying, wait a minute, you're giving these people immunity to search our laptops against our will. And so that was a big deal several years ago. And so fast forward to today, and it's really not any different. You can see from the study about half of the time these people were digging through your laptop. So the message I want to communicate out to you guys here is, that it is a bad situation. It's not being fixed, and it's probably not going to get fixed anytime soon. So if you take a laptop in for repair or a desktop or whatever, you cannot trust the people that you hand it over to. You can't really trust anybody when you hand over your device to them. So that's why having your device encrypted, not letting the device out of your sight. If you need help with a software problem, you need to stand there and watch while they work on it. Don't just hand it over. And where people get into a real pickle is they don't encrypt their laptop, and then they have some kind of problem that makes the display not work. And so they need to take it in to get it worked on, but they didn't encrypt the laptop. They can't encrypt it now because they
they
can't
do it,
see.
yeah.
It's too late. So you need to
External
take
monitor.
action now before the problem happens.
So I against my own judgment, went down to the comment section, and someone did put a suggestion. I'm curious if this would help. I mean, obviously encrypting it sounds like the way to go. Maybe for the less savvy people, not that that's a super hard thing to do, but they said, would having another account for the repair shop have helped? So to create a different user and say, hey, here's where you can go and
Well, so
check if something works. Or...
it depends. So maybe on some operating systems, they do enough user isolation where giving them a separate account would work. But what type of user account do you think the repair shop is going to ask for?
Yeah.
Admin.
An admin account, right? Because, we got to fix drivers or whatever.
And software.
And so at that point, no, it does not help.
Yeah.
No.
So did they have to install some sort of special tracking software on the computers ahead of time, or would the normal logs tell you here's what has been accessed?
All right, here's how you know it's a student study. So they use built-in tools like the Windows Problem Steps Recorder and things like that. And so in some of the laptops they got back, they actually weren't able to verify whether the system was accessed because the logs had been cleared or whatever. So they should have used third-party software to monitor and record, but they didn't. So they used built-in tools for it.
So that's the smart techs that cleared the logs before they gave it back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just be careful. Maybe read the reviews of where you're taking your device in the future. And
Honestly, if they had 5-star reviews, 1,000 glowing, if my mom recommended them to me, I still wouldn't trust them.
Yeah.
Not one single bit.
5-star reviews.
Yeah. Five out of 5.
When I paid them Bitcoin, they gave me my files right back.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Like,
question too. That
immediately. Reasonably priced.
Are they just looking at this stuff? Are they saving it to a flash drive?
Yeah,
That's the thing. It's that's frightening. All right. Well, let's take a quick break and God, the news doesn't get any better after this. But let's go ahead and take a quick break so you can decompress and.
Encrypt your hard drive.
Encrypt your hard drive real quick, and we'll see you back
real
here
quick.
in just a few seconds.
This is Josh. Josh spent $2,500 on a week of classroom training for CompTIA A+ and got certified. Josh got a good job that pays $40,000 per year. This is Jeremy. Jeremy only spent $299 on a full year of training from IT Pro TV, including A+ and 300 other courses. Jeremy also got a great job that pays $40,000 per year. Jeremy used the more than $2,200 he saved on IT training for a fabulous tropical vacation. Now Jeremy is still using his IT Pro TV membership to study for Network Plus and Security Plus to advance his career, but not spending any more money, since all three are included in his IT Pro TV membership, plus 300 more courses. Don't be like Josh. Choose IT Pro TV for your IT training.
The IT Pro TV app is available for iOS and tvOS. The modern user interface makes navigation easy. Recently watched videos can be found on the home screen, as well as our daily live streams. Choose landscape mode for larger viewing. Access the entire course library by clicking on the play icon. Navigate our content by category, certification, and job role. Learn where you want and when you want as a premium annual member by downloading episodes for offline viewing. Watch on the go and pick up later on any of your favorite devices. So head to the App Store and download the IT Pro TV app.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and as we said, the news is still, a little depressing, but this next article that we've got, what segment is this? This is from our Do segment. I didn't have to double click it, but I did. That's why it started twice.
There you go.
That's not me. I'm not going to blame our director as I normally would, because that was me today. All right, this one is from TechCrunch.com. It says, Microsoft says attackers are hacking energy grids by exploiting. It's a new service that they do. Decades-old software, so that's what they're exploiting, decades-old software. And is this one of those cases we've talked about in the past with these kind of infrastructure things where they're relying on things that were never intended to be on the internet that they're remoting into, or no?
Not in this case. In this case, it's really just shoddy maintenance and support. And I liked this article. I grabbed this one because they actually give us a real tangible example of what's happening. So we've heard that our power grid and our utility infrastructure in general is really, really vulnerable in the United States. So that if Russian attackers or any nation state or whatever wanted to target us, they likely could be very successful at messing with our water supply and our power because of some negligent maintenance activities that have occurred over the years. Well, what Microsoft found was that many pieces of infrastructure that's basically SCADA system. There we go.
SCAD is a college.
Good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Different than the college. So SCADA,
Scat.
the
That's a different thing.
That's a whole different thing.
I'll switch terms. I'll go ICS. So the industrial control systems.
Smart move, Don.
ICS, isn't that what you get
Smart
when you
move.
get a meeting request?
Well played.
Yeah, irritable bowel. Well, it's IBS.
No,
it's
Don's
different.
ICS fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Calendar invites are ICS. Yeah. All right. Well, either way, with these industrial systems, they need software to run them, right? And typically, that software is very, very stable, very resilient. It gets developed, it gets deployed on this single-purpose hardware, so there's not a lot that can go wrong, and it can run for decades and decades. Well, the problem with that is people won't maintain it for decades and decades. And what Microsoft found was that there's a vulnerability in the BOA web server. Now, if you haven't heard of BOA, I don't blame you. I've actually used it, but a long, long time ago. BOA was a small, simple web server that was designed to be used for developers. So if you were writing an app and you wanted to test on a web server, but you didn't want to bring up a full-blown server, because this was in the early days of virtualization, that you could fire up BOA and throw your web app on there and test and experiment. It was never designed to be used in production, and it stopped being supported in 2005, 17 years ago.
Rest in peace, Boa.
Well, what Microsoft found was that there were, the numbers in the article somewhere, thousands upon thousands of systems. I think it was over 100,000 systems. I can't find it, but thousands and thousands of systems that are actively running BOA today, this very moment. And so there was a breach at an undisclosed power grid location.
Wait, but you're saying BOA was for a test environment?
Yes.
And people were saying, well, I'll just use that in production?
Because it was packaged with software development kits.
Okay.
And so developers would actually use it and then push it as part of their production application. They're not supposed to, but they would. And so that's what happened here. And in this case, an intrusion into a electric grid in India was basically due to the fact that they were running this ancient web server that had a vulnerability that had not been patched for 17 years, and the attackers were able to use that to get in and then take over that network.
1 million internet exposed BOA server components
I was
globally.
off by an order of magnitude. So, yeah.
That's what Microsoft said it identified.
So there's over 1 million BOA web servers on this planet, at least, that have not been updated for 17 years, because that's when the last update came out. So that's how vulnerable our infrastructure is.
You see, and this actually makes a really good point, because, if people that come into new to cybersecurity, they think, or I get this a lot. Let me put it that way. Let me hedge my terminology here and the way I say things. I get it a lot that, if you attack against some old software, some old operating system, some old server service or whatever, that's not realistic because people don't use that anymore. It's all updated now. It's been patched since then. Yada, yada, yada. Guess what? I'm seeing 1 million, apparently, according to Microsoft, of these things that we just kind of forgot about. So just because it is old doesn't mean it's not being used, and maybe being used in ways you don't realize. Like we see that with, if you have, Eternal Blue is no longer a problem. It's still a problem, right? People still gain access through that because there are areas in the world that are still utilizing that software and can't update for X, Y, or Z reasons, or won't, or whatever. So don't discount it just because it's old or whatever. It could actually give you 1 million entry points into all sorts of wonderful little things. So it's the idea, it's the concept behind it, and some of the practices in which you use, which can be similar to others that you need to learn and figure out and go, I wonder if my network might have a little problem.
But you would think that our most important things like these types of things wouldn't be those issues.
Remember 2005, right? Internet was around, right? But it was still pretty young.
The dot-com bubble had burst.
10 years old at this point.
Yeah,
Pets.com
right?
already came. You got to remember, a lot of these SCADA systems and ICS systems and stuff had been developed in the 70s and 80s and implemented then. And then someone went, this internet thing's amazing. What we should do is stop wearing pants and work from home, and I'll hook it up to the internet, and I can just admit this is the problem, right? So now these systems that were never meant to be connected worldwide are now connected worldwide.
So you're saying if we were able to not wear pants in the office, this would not happen?
Probably not. People hate wearing pants.
Yeah.
You know, we should go back to like
That's what it comes
loincloths
down
or
to.
something,
Sure.
I guess, and everybody be happy.
Yeah, it's Florida.
So-
It's hot.
It is warm here.
So Daniel, you mentioned how these old attacks are still relevant.
Yeah.
There were 2 CVEs that were used in this one. One of them was from 2021. The other CVE was used in was released in 2017.
Nice.
So you've got a 5-year-old CVE that most people would probably ignore. Like, certainly my system has been patched since then. But because this system hadn't been patched for 17 years, the 5-year-old CVE is still valid. Yeah.
Gotta love that. It's like a birthday party for your
Yeah.
for your IoT devices or your SCADA systems or whatever.
I mean, end of the day, this just comes down to money, that these systems are expensive to update
Or lack of knowledge.
Right.
Some people might look at these and say, well, yeah, it's got a web management interface, but surely it doesn't run a web server, which, if you don't think of it
Right.
that way.
Which, I mean, if you jump on and you type an IP address in / admin and something pops up, that device is running a web server.
Yep.
That's how that works. So fun.
And people think things like, well, as long as I don't expose it to the internet, not realizing that if any one computer in the entire network is compromised, that is another
exposed.
foothold step. Yeah.
Right.
So there's just a kind of a lack of knowledge, a lack of security awareness around
and that
old
goes
equipment.
back to like just good security practices, right? Like we should have controls and trust. This is where you do like threat modeling, right? Where you're building like trust zones and anything that's coming from out here into there should not be trusted, should be sanitized, should be checked, because there is a road that makes these things connect. Where, like you said, this device does not connect to the internet per se, but this device does, and it is connected to that.
So
So I could pivot into that because it is trusted internally, as well as has like network or internet exposure.
Is that road the information superhighway?
If you're on the internet, you are on the information superhighway.
Making sure, because I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Didn't Brian Adams make a song about
You
that?
wrote that, or you
Life is
you
an
read that article on
information
AOL?
superhighway? Is that his?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's shift gears, but keep that last article in your mind.
No.
As we look at this next one,
Can't make it.
which is who got pwned.
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Yeah!
I double clicked again. I'm gonna get yelled at. All right. This one also from ArsTechnica.com. European Parliament declares Russia a terrorism sponsor. Then its site goes down. And when we
Weird
say
coincidence.
it's not Russia's site that went down. It was the European Parliament.
That's correct.
Which they have a really sad little 503 graphic that they use too. But so the pro-Kremlin group called Killnet, oh, cute name.
Friendly group.
Yeah, nice guys. They took credit for the attack. Well, good for them. So I think that just makes the European Parliament go, yeah, see, told you.
So it does highlight a bit of a problem, though, right? So the European Parliament, they voted overwhelmingly to designate Russia as a sponsor of terrorism, or the Russian Federation. And when I say overwhelming, it was like 490 to 50 or something, 494 votes to 58 against. So
And 44 abstentions.
oh, all right. Well, a couple middle of the roaders.
Yeah.
You know what you find in the middle, right? A yellow line and roadkill.
And roadkill. Yeah, that's right.
So, which I always thought that saying was weird because at least in the United States, it's not a yellow line in the middle, right? It's a white line in the middle. The yellow's
No,
on the
it's-
sides.
It's yellow.
Is it?
Yeah, it's white on the sides.
Middle way on the side.
Okay, all right. Shows what I know.
Don's been
Hold on,
driving
nothing.
for years, too.
On the shoulder.
I'm driving on the shoulder.
He's like, what is everybody doing over there? This guy's going to kill us, Marjorie.
Get off the side.
So they voted this against the Russian Federation, the country, but then their site went down by an attack claimed by Killnet, which is not necessarily a state-sponsored group of terrorism or cybercrime or whatever. They are a pro-Kremlin group, so they're a group
Are
that
they
actually
Russian?
does support the Kremlin, I would assume.
Well, they're
Yeah,
fans.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily, right?
But,
Maybe they're
this
Chinese.
is where it's so hard to prove whether it's state-sponsored terrorism or just run-of-the-mill terrorism, right?
Is this where they're like, because Russia has been so, yeah, we got a hacker problem, but I'm going to go over here. And they don't really do anything about that. It's kind of a safe haven for hackers, specifically, malicious hackers.
Yeah,
That they're turning them and saying this is because of you not doing anything about it.
yeah. Where they draw the line is they say, look, if you're hacking people, but they're not Russian,
Yeah.
then it's not a crime here,
Right.
right? If you're hacking some other country,
Yeah. As long as you don't hack us,
that's not us.
We'll leave you alone.
And so the other country's laws apply, not ours, and we don't extradite.
Yeah. It's not like they're on like good terms with anybody else hardly.
So that's
Iran.
no different.
Yeah.
That's no
Brazil.
different than a country that has terrorist training camps, even though they're not run by the government, but they're not doing anything to stop it. That they're aware of these things existing.
They turn a blind eye.
They're turning a blind eye, and that's what we're saying is happening here. Just as bad.
And it's not just hacking that's like that. Do you guys remember the website All of MP3?
I do not.
So
Remind me.
back when Napster was a thing,
Yeah.
right? People were starting to do music sharing. A music store launched, and you could buy MP3s on it. So just like Apple or anybody else, except they didn't bill per song; they billed per megabyte. And it was like dirt cheap, so 15 cents for 100 megabytes or something like that. And so you were able to buy music super cheap, below what the price should be for anybody. And when the music industry dug into it, they found that all right, so it was a Russian company, and the way the Russian laws were at the time was, look, if you're stealing intellectual property from other countries, that's not us, and so that's not a crime. And so the all of MP3 people were not paying royalties at all. And so they were bootlegging the MP3s and then selling them. So it was 100% profit, and that's why they could sell low. And finally, the recording industry had to say, like, they had to seek international sanctions and stuff under copyright law to crack down on Russia. And so Russia ended up having to shut that company down.
Nice.
And so that did happen. Like they will take action on the international stage occasionally, but when it comes to hacking groups, they have not. And that's because they do have it kind of weaponized better than anybody else as far as we can tell.
And
That's
now
why
we're just going.
I was still spending 1 penny for 10 CDs back then.
Yeah.
From Columbia.
Columbia House.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Can you still do that?
Yeah, probably.
Columbia House.
It's up to 10 cents now.
Yeah.
But
Inflation.
yeah, that's the gas prices and whatnot.
All right. Columbia
Hunter
House is
Biden.
still a thing, but it's
Is that movies?
it's
though? That was like-
DVDs. Yeah.
DVDs. $9.95 each. That's not bad.
No, that's nowhere near as. Get your first
Yeah, but I
two
want-
DVDs for $10 each. That sucks.
That's terrible compared to
2 DVDs for $10 each. Yeah, that's not a great deal.
the world has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why people pirate your stuff.
Go to Daily Motion and
'Cause
watch.
I'm used to spending a tenth of a penny on a CD,
Yeah, that's true.
and then getting billed every month for probably like $30 a month or something from that point on for like one more CD. That's where they got you. You got to cancel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they still sell CDs.
I've heard-
Do they really?
Like you can go on Amazon and
Okay,
buy
so,
CDs.
They still sell
The,
records.
the mall around where I live, they have CDs.
well,
can buy
you
CDs
you
there.
live in the country.
I do.
I bet they still have a
It's actually
Blockbuster.
kind of nice, man.
It was just the other day. I got 2 CDs.
Oh God, no one's
You
asking.
don't say.
No one's asking. Just like we didn't talk about Daniel's soft Wii. We're not.
Soft mod the Wii.
Yep, that's what I said. We're not
And
gonna.
then we
ask
played with
about
it all weekend. It was great.
What
Uh,
CDs, Don?
Well, almost.
We should make you have to say it.
yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to commit to this
Yeah,
one.
that's right.
Because next time I'm pulled into HR, I go, well, what about Don? Did he get talked to? I
feel
point you to
like this
episode
is
284.
Yeah, that's a bit unfair. here.
Technado. Minute 53.
Yeah, just scroll to that one.
All right. Well, yeah. So no one's shocked. Russia sponsors terrorism, and Russia proves why. Good for them.
Russia being Russia.
Belarus, that's another friend of theirs.
Yeah.
They're good buddies.
It's kind of fun to say Belarus. I don't know why.
I have a hard time. I always mix up Bolivia and Belarus. I mean, they both start with BEL.
Yeah.
But they're on opposite sides of the planet.
Completely different. Yeah.
Very, very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Guinea or Guyana, and what? There's a country in.
Papua New Guinea.
Well, no, there's one in South America, and then there's the one in Africa, and I always get those confused as well.
Good story.
We're gonna get more people telling us about our geography mistakes. Why do we always
we were just the
we always
worst
start these conversations and we're
Yeah.
like, we can't.
people. I know things. No, I don't.
I don't know what country I'm thinking of. Uruguay.
The
Uruguay?
Falkland Islands.
The Falkland Islands. Yeah. All right. Who knows?
The Tuamotus.
Oh no, it's Guinea and Ghana is what I confuse, and they're both in Africa.
All
so
right.
that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
that's less.
We'll give you that one. Judges will allow it.
I mean, and the countries change names there so often.
What are you trying to say?
I can't keep track. I didn't know this was a country. I'm looking at some of these going, that's a country?
It is a rapidly changing political situation.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Which just makes the World Cup tough to follow.
It really.
Like,
I can
who?
see the TV.
Oh, how we doing?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's people with a ball.
But
One
it's
guy's
Thursday.
waving his arms. Like
It's
a weirdo.
Thursday. All right. I want to let you know about something coming up. Actually, something that's ongoing right now, but the end is coming up soon. The 12 Days of IT. It's the third time we've done it here at IT Pro. And if you head over to itpro.tv/12days, you can sign up. So what we'll do is 12 different unboxings of different tech gadgets, fun products, things you could use at work, things you can use at home. And then at the end, we will give all those things away on a YouTube Live on December 9th. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So visit that website or head over to our YouTube channel and make sure that you kind of bookmark that YouTube Live and come back and check it out December 9th, 2 p.m. See if you win. Just have to fill out a little form and got some cool stuff on there. And yeah, and also go ahead and head over to Technado.com, and you can see all the latest episodes. You can see the swag we've got. You can let us know how bad we are at geography.
I think we proved
figured
that
out.
today.
We've established
Yeah,
that.
you can confirm it or educate us.
I would not do
basically.
well on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
That
That Africa map would show up, and you just see the kid like
Yeah,
despair.
I'm done. Yeah, yeah, but then I see where they have Europeans try to like fill in all the states and
Oh, they
like,
can't do it. Yeah,
West Ohio. I don't know. Yeah.
you can try and get Americans to fill in
Yeah,
the states
no,
and
that's
watch
true.
them fail pretty horribly.
We're not good at that. But yeah, while you're on that site, there's a big orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro. Click on that. You can get 30% off of your personal membership to IT Pro. Very easy to do that. You can also request a team trial and see all the great features available to teams from IT Pro as well, like the Pro Portal. Cool stuff there. So check that out. All right, that's all the stuff I have to say. So, any closing thoughts, guys?
We said things too.
Mhm.
It was enjoyable.
There we go.
Perfect.
Commitment to excellence.
Yeah.
All right, enjoy playing with your Wii, and
You know I will.
and enjoy your CDs. And all of you enjoy your week, and we will see you next week right here on Technado.